Imagine everybody knows what's going on out in the world of politics.
Let us know.
What was that?
You could update us.
Update us. We want to hear your version.
Well, obviously it's still a battle, and it's not. Obviously, it's not over. I had given a shiur last week in which I laid out 3 scenarios, but I believe the real scenario will probably be where Trump will resume being president. And this whole thing basically is a satanic attempt to overthrow, because in many ways Trump is a very dangerous person. He's the Tov Shebesav, and what he's done until now has been in many ways incredible, which of course we know. And it's not just that he's given a tremendous amount of things to Israel, which no president has ever done before, but what's even more important is that he is ending what's called the klipa of Yishmael. The tremendous jealousy that Yishmael had for the Jewish people, and therefore there has been so much persecution in the end of time. That is ending because there are many countries, Arab countries, that we know that are aligning themselves with Eretz Israel. So these 2 things are unheard of, that the Arabs want to align with Israel, which is, when you think about it, it's really unheard of. And it's truly messianic, actually, But it's not only that, it's also the fact that Israel is rising tremendously among the nations of the world in so many different fields. They have become sort of like a super country, even though they have around 9 million people, which is really obviously very little. But they have become one of the leading nations in the entire world in so many different areas, whether it be cybersecurity and high tech and agriculture and medicine and so on, computers, and like I say, water conservation, agriculture. So what we are watching really is truly messianic. And if you think about it, Trump, who has initiated all of this, which itself is incredible, he's in the middle of his job, you see. But like I once mentioned, there's many kitrugim, many prosecutions that are going on to try to stop this. And in a certain sense, we are at the same time period that the Jews were in before the Yom Suf, when there was a tremendous din Torah, a tremendous judgment in heaven as to whether the Jews should be destroyed or just the Egyptians. And of course, at the head of the din was a Satan, because of course, once the Jews pass over the Yom Suf, then they will come, of course, to the Torah, receive the Torah, and as a result of that, when they receive the Torah, they will then begin what's called the tikkun process. That, of course, is the most dangerous thing for the Satan. And in fact, it was so dangerous that it almost meant the end of the Satan, until he somehow was able to tempt the Jews by having Moshe Rabbeinu's coffin appear in the heaven. So they all thought he was dead, and as a result of that, they said that we have to, we need an idol in order to lead us on, because they were very unsure of themselves, because there were so many years of slavery in Egypt. But the main idea is that the Satan was almost killed, because that was the closest attempt that the Jews had ever come to bringing the Mashiach. In many ways, that's really where we're at. We are at the Kriyas Samsuf. Could you imagine? All the Jews thought that they were going to die because they had the Egyptian army surrounding them, and their back was against the sea. So could you imagine the fear, the pachad moves, that the Jews had at that point, you see? And what's so interesting is that it is after such a good feeling of leaving Egypt, you see. Yet notwithstanding that, God subjected them to a tremendous pachad moves, which of course created in them a tremendous depression. And that was in order to, in some way, have the Jews gain a schus, a merit, to believe in God that He would redeem them. And of course, that's what happened, that God did redeem the Jews. But we have the same thing. I mean, after witnessing 4 years of Trump doing such incredible things, good things for the Jewish people, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, sort of, comes this individual who's basically an empty suit, who is not only a criminal, because he himself was involved in bribery and committed treason, because he made a bargain with the enemy of the United States. I mean, but here's a guy who's done nothing in 47 years. He himself is going senile, and he's a socialist. So how in the world could this be? You're looking at something which is totally miraculous, a nes. It is a nes nigla. It's an open miracle that a person like this, that is so, so impossible to become a candidate, actually vie for the presidency. And we see this is what's happening. And this is after 4 years of incredible leadership of Trump. So what you're really seeing is that after a tremendous good time, you're seeing the bad time. You're seeing the time that, a very bad time that is threatening the Jewish people, you see. So in many ways, we can say that we are paralleling this time. And like I mentioned, also the same concept by Moshe Rabbeinu when he came to Egypt, right? He actually generated the decree of straw, which made it much worse. So could you imagine the Jews finally get up their hope that the Mashiach has arrived, and not only has the Mashiach, not only does he not do anything, but he himself actually made it worse by telling Paroi that you have to let the Jews go. Same idea. Whenever something great is happening, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, it completely reverses itself and turns around, and everybody goes into a depression because of that. But as I once mentioned, there are reasons for this. And that is really what's happening today. After such an incredible good things that Trump did, all of a sudden, there is somebody that is in danger of taking over the United States and really destroying this country. It's interesting. Somebody asked me, well, if Trump said that if he can't make it now, he'll run in 2024, so why do we just wait? The answer to that is that because by the time 2024 arrives, Biden will have destroyed the United States. Now, can we believe, because of his policies are so bad, allowing any immigrant to come in, giving them free education, free health, taxing people tremendously, and to overturning all the tremendous regulations that Trump overturned, he will restore them. And then, of course, with Iran, he will restore Iran. And there's so many things. The Paris Accord, which is terrible for the United States. There are so many things that he will do that he'll destroy the country. So what's the point if Trump runs in 2024? He's going to run in a country that has been so decimated, you see. Now the question is, do we really think that the Baruch Hashem wants this? Is this a way to prepare for the redemption, by having evil reign for 4 years? Obviously, it's not very likely. So therefore, the prediction is, or the feeling is that Trump will win. Well, and then how that will be, there's any number of ways that Trump can actually turn it around. I hear now that there's tremendous scandal with the software called Dominion, which is a Venezuelan product, which is incredible how the U.S. can use that product. And it was built for Chavez, which obviously used it to turn around elections through a computer. He can reverse ballots from one candidate to another, and that's obviously how Chavez won elections. So how this came to be used for the United States is just beyond belief. It really is. But like I say, that's what seems to be happening. The scandal is getting greater and greater. And listen, I feel that Trump, in the end, will be victorious, and Biden will be dismissed. As it is, it's ludicrous, because he has declared himself president-elect, which of course he's not, and he actually says he's from the office of the president-elect, which of course is no such office. I mean, talk about, a person that has absolutely no patience, and everybody, of course, is trying to promote him and so on. But I believe that this is what's going to happen, and we just have to obviously wait and see. So everything is in the midst of this tremendous kitrug, prosecution by the Satan himself. Anyway, that's as far as I can see. Anyway.
Rabbi.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you about, since it's Rosh Chodesh Heshvan, if you could speak a little bit about the...
Kislev.
Sorry, yeah, something.
Kislev.
If you could speak a little bit about like the purpose of the Rosh Chodesh and how they're saying it's so special. It's like Yom Kippur, and how it could tie into the redemption if it does.
Yeah, because a lot of people are saying that Hanukkah is going to be a time where we're going to really see things open up for the Mashiach. There was some Bible code or something that someone did a video and it said Hanukkah on it.
Yeah. Well, Rosh Chodesh...
Rabbi,
what was that?
Before you start, I forgot to say I wanted to do the Shiur so that Shira Sarah Bat Esther will find her zivug and will get married Be'ezrat Hashem this year.
What's the name?
Amen.
Shira Sarah Bat Esther.
Shira Sarah Bat
Esther.
Esther.
Yes.
She should find a zivug hogan, the core of mamish, and benekal, very easy. And she should have tremendous simcha with her future chosn. In any case, Rosh Chodesh in many ways is a very important time. In fact, there was a special korban brought on Rosh Chodesh. It's a chatos. And the idea to Rosh Chodesh is that everything needs a beginning. In Hebrew, it's called the hitchatshut. Everything needs a beginning, And it's not only because, obviously, that's where you begin from, but many times you start off on something, some type of project or whatever, and then you fall into a rut where you can't really move, it's not working out, or you don't know what to do, you're confused and so on. So therefore, there's a concept of a beginning that you can always turn around and begin anew, In fact, if you really think about it, at any given moment, it is possible for a person to turn his life completely around. If you think about that, the problem that we have is that we are creatures of habit. So therefore, it's much more difficult to turn things around because we are habituated to do certain things. And what we do when we do have those habits is obviously we remain fixed in the situation in which we are basically failing, you see. So therefore, Rosh Chodesh offers an opportunity to rethink and replan what to do. That is in many ways, the concept of Rosh Chodesh, you see, is the concept of a beginning to replan, to pick yourself off the floor and to start over again. Now, there are actually 12 Rosh Chodoshim. There are 12 months. Actually, there are 13, but there's 12 because each one mirrors a shevet, a particular tribe. And each tribe had a specialty in the avodah, in worshiping or serving God. Each tribe had a unique approach. For instance, Yisachar, for example, their approach was tremendous hasmada in the Torah. They sat and learned the whole day. And the ones who supported him and therefore shared in his Torah was Zvulun. Yeah. So that's why today there's what's called a Yisachar Zvulun contract. And they're actually people that say, I don't really have that much time to learn. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make an agreement, a contract with a person that he will learn and I will support him, whatever the contract is, and I will therefore receive half his reward. And that's called a Yisachar Zvulun contract, which is a real contract, and there are people, of course, that have entered that. So what we see, therefore, is that the different shvatim have different sort of like specialty avodah. For instance, like I said, Kohen, they are involved in kahuna, which is of course, is that they are the priests or they serve the Rebbeinu Shalom, not through any mundane way, but they are spiritual, you see. And then you have the Levium. Every Shevet has its own specialty in its avodah. Therefore, just like there are 12 Shvatim, there are 12 Rosh Chodesh, because each Chodesh represents one Shevet, you see. And as a result of that, initially a person can say, well, I want to start the avodah of such and such a Shevet, and the time to start it, of course, is on the beginning of the month that this Shevet reigns. And the Shefa, for instance, of that Shevet shines or illuminates that month, you see. And for instance, Yosef HaTzadik, his Shefa reigns on Adar, and so on, and Yehuda is Nisan, and so on. So the concept of Rosh Chodesh, in many ways, is a beginning, and as a result of that, it includes what's called, the Yom Kippur service, the Chodesh, the Yom Kippur service of that month, because what you're really asking is it's like Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. What you're asking is to forgive the sins, of the previous times, and to begin anew the spiritual task. Now, it doesn't have to be specific, but Rosh Chodesh is a great time, as they say, to begin. I wouldn't call it a New Year's resolution, but a new month resolution, you see. And in many ways, that mirrors the moon. Why do the Jews keep time according to the moon and not the sun? Because the sun never changes in its luminosity. It rises and then falls, and it never loses. It doesn't take shapes. You see, it's always a full sun. The moon, however, changed shape. And that really, in many ways, mirrors the journey of Klal Yisrael. Because Klal Yisrael, and that's the concept that the moon is born every month. It takes 28 days, 28 and a half days, and it makes an entire circuit around the earth. It's called the lunation. One revolution of the moon around the earth is that revolution is called a lunation, and that takes 28 and a half days. But the interesting thing about it is that the moon changes shape. Why? Because the moon does not have its own luminosity, obviously, so it can only reflect the light of the sun. But depending on the angle that the moon has between the earth and the sun, that is the shape you will see on the moon. So the moon is born, the first thing is called the chidush, or rather is the moilad, and the moilad is when the moon is exactly between the center of the earth, then you have the center of the moon, and then the center of the sun. So in effect, the moon disappears, which is really what the Jews do. They will many times disappear because of sins or whatever. And then lo and behold, in less than a day, the moon reappears as a slight crescent, you see. And that's the same concept of the Jewish people, that the Jews again begin to what's called waxing. They grow, you see, until they reach the full moon, which is the opposite side, when the moon is on the opposite side of the earth. So you have the sun, the earth, and then the moon. So then the moon is full. So that indicates the growth of the Jewish people. So the Jewish people are always growing, light, spirituality. And then all of a sudden, lo and behold, the moon begins to what's called wane. And it begins to disappear. Because that's what happens with the Jews. They rise and fall constantly, you see. And that really, in many ways, is the history of the Jewish people, where in one country they rise, and all of a sudden, in another country, they fall. Or in the same country, they begin to diminish. So therefore, the moon, in many ways, represents the history of the Jewish people, where it is born, grows, reaches its full peak, and then begins to wane, which is to disappear. And then all of a sudden, lo and behold, it pops out again. That's the concept of hischachus, renewal, you see. So the essential idea of the moon, it's always renewing itself, you see. And it renews itself 12 times, because those 12 times are really the shortum, you see. And the interesting is that there's an Adar Sheni, 7 times out of 19 years, you have to add a month in order to align the moon, the lunar year with the solar year, you see. Because the lunar year is 354 days, and the solar year is 365 days. So the lunar year is 11 days shorter. That means the moon reaches its year 11 days earlier every year. So it comes out that every 3 years, it is now receded 1 month, which is 30 days basically. So for instance, if the moon's Rosh Chodesh, if the new moon happened in let's say March 1st, then the next month it would be February 20th. The next month it would be February 10th. And then after 3 months, or rather I should say 3 years, not months, 3 years, it would be February 1st, you see? So it comes out that the lunar year goes backwards every 11 days. So therefore the Jews are commanded that Pesach must be in the springtime. And Pesach, we know, is based on the solar year, because seasons are based on the solar. So if Pesach must be in the springtime, so therefore if you would keep Pesach only based on the lunar, then it comes out that Pesach would be earlier by 11 days every year, and after 3 years, Pesach would fall out in February. Well, Pesach in February is the winter, is the winter, and not the spring. So therefore, the Chazal are commanded to insert a 13th month into the calendar. So they add a second Adar. That's what they add. So that second Adar, right, is the 13th month. So the question, of course, is, are there 13 Shvatim? And the answer is basically, yes, there are. Because many times Yosef is counted separate from Menashe and Ephraim. Sometimes he's counted together with Menashe, so you have 12 months. But there are times that Yosef is counted separately, so it comes out that there are actually many times 13 months in a year, you see. So the Jewish year, or the lunar year, 7 years out of 19, you actually have a 13-month calendar. But again, the essential idea of a month is that it is meant to provide a beginning of an avodah, you see. And in many ways, that's really what it's all about. The concept of Rosh Chodesh, you see. One interesting point, since I'm talking about this, is that the moon was declared, the new month was declared not by the astronomical event, but by two witnesses observing the new moon, and they would have to go to Besdin in Jerusalem, the Supreme Court, the Sanhedrin, and they would have to testify in front of judges that they saw the new moon, and the Besdin, the Sanhedrin, would declare that day to be the new month, the first day of the month, and that day would be, like I said, the first day of the month, and that would be obviously the month would begin, and then you would count 28 days until the next sighting of the moon. The interesting thing about that, you see, is that this idea of the witnesses having to come and then testify in front of Besdin, that was so important that they could machal Shabbos. In other words, what happens if all of a sudden two witnesses saw the moon Friday night? They actually could travel on Shabbos. You see, they could carry, they could travel, they can do all kinds of isurim, even though it was Friday night, in order to get to the court by Shabbos and testify in the Sanhedrin, Supreme Court, and then they would declare that Shabbos to be the first day of the month, which is very interesting. It's one of the few times in the Torah where you see that somebody can actually mechalel Shabbos, can desecrate the Shabbos, you see. So how do we understand this? And the reason for that is because there's a tremendous urgency for the first day of the month in the calendar, Jewish calendar, to coincide with the actual astronomical event of a new moon. So the urgency was so important that God allowed witnesses to desecrate the Shabbos in order to make sure that the day that the witnesses saw the new moon would be the first day of the Jewish month. You see, which is really, when you think about that, it's amazing that God would permit the desecration of Shabbos by witnesses in order to align the calendar, the astronomical event of a new moon with the first day of the Jewish calendar. You see, and that is really, in many ways, a very important idea. You see, in any case, so this is really the concept of the new moon and the whole concept of Rosh Chodesh, that in many ways it signals the ability to begin something new in terms of spirituality. Now, Kislev itself is a very great month, obviously because of Hanukkah. And I will give a shiur about Hanukkah, what really happened, and why Hanukkah is so great. But the month of Kislev, in many ways, represents the Messianic light. Yes, the Or Mashiach. And when I talk about Hanukkah, I will explain what Hanukkah is really all about, what really happened on Hanukkah. But the bottom line of all of this is that Hanukkah is about the Messianic light. And you begin to see that when we talk about the menorah and the 8 lights, you see. But Hanukkah is a celebration of a restoration of the Messianic light. So in that sense, Hanukkah is a great day, or I should say a great month, Kislev, for the Mashiach to come, and also to begin the revelation of the Orishan, the Messianic light. Yeah, it is very, as they say in English, propitious for the Mashiach to come in Kislev. You see, so tonight is Monday night, Tuesday is Rosh Chodesh Kislev, so in many ways it's a tremendous time to begin thinking about the Messianic idea. And I understand that the Electoral College, December 14th, will be in the middle of Hanukkah, which is itself very, very interesting. You see. So that's the tie-in and so on, But anyway, that's what Rosh Chodesh is. And many people say the Avodah of Yom Kippur, and in order to have a kapora for that month, and that's what they do, you see. And that itself is a very great thing, to join and women do it also, to join the Avodah of Yom Kippur. It's not that long, which people say on Rosh Chodesh. Every Erev Rosh Chodesh, they say that the tefillah of Yom Kippur and so on. In fact, there was once a story where somebody came to the Chofetz Chaim, and he said that he has a sickness which the doctors say that he will not live. So the Chofetz Chaim told him, here's what you do. You see, go and say every Rosh Chodesh, or I should say every Erev Rosh Chodesh, what you should say is the Avodah of Yom Kippur. You say it in shul. Many shuls say it. And you will say. And that's what the person did. He began saying the tefillah of Rosh Chodesh, and lo and behold, he lived. His sickness went away. So clearly then, there's obviously a tremendous segula to say that. It's a very protective idea. Just like Kiddush HaChodesh is, during the month we say Kiddush HaChodesh, we bless the new moon, you see, that it should be restored, no longer to have phases, but to shine like the sun, which means the tikkun is complete. That's why we do that. And that is very protective. It has a certain segula to protect the person from any type of calamity, you see. So just like Kiddush HaChodesh has that power, the same thing also is if you say the Avodah of Yom Kippur on Erev Rosh Chodesh. It also has this ability to protect. I'm just telling you that's a tremendous segula to observe, But in any case, that's basically what Rosh Chodesh is. And tonight's Rosh Chodesh, which I mentioned, I said, is Kislev, is especially appropriate for Mashiach. Because like I said, the concept of Kislev is the concept of Mashiach, the Messianic light, you see. In fact, if you think about the dreidel has 4 letters, Nun, Gimel, Hey, Shin, which stands for Nes Godel HaYasham. Nes Godel, a great miracle happened there, you see. And the gematria of Nun, Gimel, Hey, Shin is 356, I think, which is the gematria of Mashiach. So the very letters on the dreidel adds up to Mashiach, because in many ways it really is a messianic holiday. It's a tremendous month to restore the messianic light. And as I will explain later on, when I give that Hanukkah shiur, this in many ways is the secret of the menorah, which is the light of the Mashiach, as we will see at that time. So I would encourage people to take Rosh Chodesh seriously. And anyway, they say Rosh Chodesh is a holiday for women. And especially appropriate for a woman to, in many ways, observe Rosh Chodesh and to treat it, which would be nice to make a seudah, to make a meal on Rosh Chodesh, if you can. No matter what it is, But, maybe to light 2 candles on Rosh Chodesh, let's say tonight, which is Kislev, in commemoration of Rosh Chodesh. You see. So that would be a very nice way of commemorating Rosh Chodesh. By lighting 2 candles, maybe having something special to eat. A little Suda. That would be nice. And there are people, by the way, who have done that. That's how they celebrate Rosh Chodesh. Nothing fancy, as they say, but to a certain extent, to be able to commemorate that. So that's the greatness of Rosh Chodesh itself. Okay. Everybody got that?
So tell us a little bit more about this Kislev.
About what?
Tell us more about Kislev.
Well, like I said, the main concept.
Rabbi, don't they say that Hashem has a different name for each month?
Yes, the names of the months that we have is not really in the Torah at all. In the Torah, you have 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and so on. And the first month is Nisan. Exactly. There is no such thing as the names. The names
of the months that come from Persia. They come from Persia.
Well, they really come from Babylon.
They said it comes from Paras. And they still have the same names today. Persia has the same names of the months.
Well, then, because Persia actually ruled after Babylon. But when the Jews went to Babylon, Bavel, when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, so Nebuchadnezzar exiled all of them to Bavel. And the names of these months originate really in Bavel. And since Persia took over Babylon, they obviously adapted their names also of the months. But the names of the Jewish months really are in many ways Babylonian. Because in the Torah you don't find that. In the Torah you find, obviously, Chodesh Rishon, 1st month, 2nd month, and so on. Because the Torah wants to remind you of the greatness of Nisan. So therefore, when you count the month, you only count it from Nisan. So in that way, you remember the what's called the primacy of Nisan. You see, actually, it's the same concept as the days of the week. First day, there's no such thing as Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Those names come from the Norse. Many of them. Sunday is the sun god, Monday is the moon god, and so on. They come from the Norse, Scandinavian countries. You see, Thursday is Thor, Friday is Frida, whatever, and so on. But the same idea. The first day of is Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi. Why? Because the Torah wants you to keep in mind the concept of Shabbos. So Yom Rishon means the first day after Shabbos, 2nd day after Shabbos, 3rd day, and so on. You see? And then the 6th day after Shabbos, and then, of course, you have the next Shabbos. So really, in Judaism, the week really begins from Shabbos. And in order for you to keep that in mind, you count the days from Shabbos.
We count Shabbat, Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi,
right.
Counting down to Shabbat.
Well, really, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, yeah, but you can go either way. Because the first 3 days of the week belong to the previous Shabbat, and the last 3 days belong to the incoming Shabbat. You see, so however you want to work it, the key concept is you're counting from Shabbat, whether it be the previous or the upcoming, in order to keep in mind that the whole week revolves around Shabbat. And therefore, it's the same idea with the months. Whether you count, your 1st, 2nd, 3rd month, and so on, right? Then you're counting from Nisan to tell you that is the time we got out of Egypt, and that is the time that we became a nation. It was only when we got out of Egypt that we really became independent and we assumed a real status of nationhood. You see, same idea. And so therefore there is no days, there's no names of the, the months or the days of the week and so on, Like I said, but the critical thing in Kislev is this idea. I had spoken actually, which is interesting, I think it's good to say, the 11th day of Cheshvan, of which, we are actually out of now, right, was the Yotzeit of Rosh Chodesh. And the meaning of that is very interesting. Because Yud Aleph Cheshvan, the 11th day of Cheshvan, is really the 41st day since Rosh Hashanah. In other words, from Rosh Hashanah, which is Aleph Tishrei, if you count 41 days, that will bring you to Yud Aleph Cheshvan. And that is the Yotzeit of Rosh Chodesh. But what's even more important is that was the day that the Messianic light should have come down, the Orishan. Instead, as I mentioned, it came down the 18th, it came down as water, which destroyed the earth. So the question is, what is important about the 41st day? You see? Well, if you think about that, there are 10 Sfirot, each one has 10. So you're looking here at 10 major Sfiros, and you're looking at each one having 10 minor Sfirot. That's 100, you see. So that's the first idea. The second idea is that we count 49 days from the second day of Pesach until Shavuot. 49 days. And and therefore we count 7 each week of the 49 days, which is 7 days, is a Sfirah. But it's only from Chesed to Malchus, you see, without going into the whole explanation. And what is interesting is that when you get to the 41st day of that count, from Pesach, second day of Pesach to Shavuot, when you get to the 41st day, that 41st day is Yesoid Shabi Yesoid, the foundation of the foundation. And that, by the way, is the Yotzeit of Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. He died on the 41st day of the Omer, which is Yesoid Shabi Yesoid. You see. And that 41st day, Yesoid Shabi Yesoid, it represents the sphere of Yesoid, of the largest sphere of Yesoid. And that represents the Orishan. Therefore, if you go to the other side of the calendar, which is from Rosh Hashanah, right, and you count 49 days, right, so the 41st day is, of course, Yud Aleph Cheshvan, you see. And that 41st day, which is Yud Aleph Cheshvan, from Rosh Hashanah, that is when the Orishan, again, the foundation of the foundation, which represents the Orishan, that's when it was supposed to come down. You see? So you have on either side of the calendar, on the Pesach side, 41 days, is Yesoid Shav Yesoid, which, as I mentioned, is the Yod side of Ramchal, right? And on the other side, from Rosh Hashanah, the 41st day is, again, Yesoid Shav Yesoid, which again is, Kabbalistically, the Orishan. So that is the significance of why the Orishan comes down on the 41st day, which is Yud Aleph Cheshvan, which is 41 days after Rosh Hashanah. I wanted to add that as why was this day so significant, you see. And therefore, that's what happens, you know. Now, that Kislev also is the Orishan, because the holiday of Hanukkah essentially is all about the Orishan, which I will explain. But in any case, that's really what it is. So tonight is a great time to pray for the Mashiach. and that he should be able to release his or, you see, his oration, which is the essence of the entire Kabbalah, and it's the essence of the redemption, is that messianic light, you see. And that's what we pray for. So tonight is a tremendous sigula for the messianic light to be revealed this month, you see. And maybe in that merit, maybe, we have the elections. Trump will win the elections. Not win, but he will resume being president, Look, America's in a crisis. America is in a constitutional crisis, which is really remarkable. And it's very important for them to solve this problem, because then nobody will ever believe that Biden won, and everybody will question his authority, because everybody realizes that the entire thing is fraudulent. And that can easily lead to a civil war or some tremendous division in America, you see. So in any case, that's what we have to be aware of and so on. But like I said, that's what Rosh Chodesh is. It's a hischadshus. It's a beginning. And it's a great time to begin some type of a spiritual turnaround, whatever that is that you want to do. And you could do this 12 times a year, you see. And because of that, it has a certain shefa, a certain divine influence that comes down on Rosh Chodesh that will help you actually, do a real tshuva in whatever you want to do. It has a certain divine influence on Rosh Chodesh, you see. So, look, it would be great to take advantage of that, Any case. But like I said, if you can, and you want to light 2 candles for Rosh Chodesh and have a little something special, let's say a special piece of cake or whatever, that's nice. There are people that do that, by the way. They celebrate Rosh Chodesh. Even though you can still work, but they celebrate the concept that each month has something to do with each shevet, and therefore each month has some type of avodah to get close to God. In any case, so that's the concept of Rosh Chodesh.
Do you know which shevet is for Kislev?
Say that again?
Do you know which shevet is for Kislev?
Which shevet is for Kislev? I don't recall now. I would have to remember.
Would it be Yehuda?
No, Yehuda is Adar is Yosef. It's written out which shevet represents which month. I don't recall which one right now is Kislev.
Would it be Yosef, because that's Mashiach ben Yosef?
Yosef is
no, Yosef is Adar. It could be Yisachar, because Yisachar represents Torah.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised. I just have to recall it, that's why. What month is represented, But in any case, Yeah. What was that?
Back to the politics. Do you think that Trump has the evidence, or it still hasn't come to full light yet?
Well, I think that he does have evidence. There's a woman, her name is Sidney
Powell.
Powell, that's it. Yeah, good, thanks. She is a very good lawyer. She's a constitutional lawyer. And she said, remarkably, that there's a tremendous amount of witnesses that have come forth. And they have said many things which are illegal, mamish illegal for the states to have done this. And they are right now gathering a ton of evidence. They're gathering a ton of evidence.
Rabbi, 1 minute, Rabbi. The tribe of Binyamin is believed to correspond to the month of Kislev.
Binyamin?
Yeah.
Well, if that's true, that would make sense, because Binyamin is from Rochel.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Yosef would be Adar, and if Binyamin is Kislev, remember, both of them are messianic figures, right? Binyamin, by the way, remember, Shaul was from the tribe of Binyamin. Remember King Saul, the first king? And the reason...
Ishimini.
Correct. He was from the tribe of Binyamin, right? And the reason for that is because from Binyamin, you also can have the Mashiach ben Yosef, because he comes from Rochel. And Rochel gives birth to the Mashiach ben Yosef. So that is Shaul HaMelech. And then, of course, then you have David HaMelech. Also, if you recall, Mordechai, Ishimini, he is also from the tribe of Benjamin, and he also was a forerunner. He also was a Sherish ben Yosef. And that's why he ascended to such a great height. And remember also that the Beis HaMikdash was in the property of Binyamin. Correct. Binyamin. Exactly. The Beis HaMikdash was in the property, his area, his land area of Binyamin. Exactly. And the Beis HaMikdash, of course, is where the Shekhinah is. You see. And therefore, this is, if it is Binyamin, then that would be incredibly appropriate. And remember also that the key historical event of Kislev is the rededication of the temple. Remember, they found the oil, and so if you think about it, the temple, the Beit HaMikdash, was in the territory of Binyamin. So it comes out that in the very month, which is his month, that's exactly when they rededicated the Beit HaMikdash. So that really fits very well. You see.
So it's a month of dreams and miracles.
Yes.
I'm going to forward to it.
By the way, I heard a very interesting gematria. I haven't checked it out, but the Haftorah of this that just passed is the Haftorah that Adoniyahu, which is one of the sons of David HaMelech, he wanted to be
made
king.
himself king.
Yeah.
Like
and therefore what they did is they ran to make Shlomo HaMelech king. So somebody told me, and I have not checked this out, that the gematria of Biden is gematria Adoniyahu.
Correct. We checked it out already.
What was that?
I checked it out. It is. I got the text.
Great.
It's true. Adoniyahu is Biden.
How did you spell Biden, by the way?
Beyadan.
It was somebody sent it on an Instagram. I think it was Bet Yud. It's double Yud, if I'm not mistaken.
And then Dalid, and then what? Aleph or Ayin?
Nun Sofi.
Oh, just Nun Sofit. Okay. Yeah. And also somebody told me, and I have not checked this out, is that instead of Adoniyahu, they made Shlomo HaMelech king, and somebody told me that the gematria of Shlomo HaMelech is Donald Trump. Donald J. Trump. Isn't that amazing?
Way.
I'm telling you. The gematria of Donald Trump in Hebrew is 424, which is exact gematria of Mashiach ben David.
Correct.
Yeah, so somebody told me that Shlomo HaMelech is gematria to Donald J. Trump. So the J would probably be a Yud, because John is in Hebrew is Yochanan.
Oh wow!
So you'd have to check that out. I have not checked that out, but I'm just passing it on. For those who are interested.
I like it. Very interesting. God willing, this should be the Rabbi. Do you know, by the way, that Dominion voting machine is backed by Nancy Pelosi's husband, the Hillary Clinton Foundation. They were counting the ballots in Germany, so if they get caught, you can't go prosecute out of the country. They're finding so much evidence against the Democrats that it's hard to believe that they're not saying anything on the news.
Yeah, that's because of the Democrats. Yeah. See, what's interesting is that because there is such an incredible scandal, that this can actually destroy the Democratic Party. Because we're not looking here at a loss. We're looking at a criminal scandal. And if all of this, when this comes out, what all the criminal activities of the Democratic Party, in a certain sense, it can actually destroy the party. So this may be a way that the Rebbe wants to destroy the Democratic Party, which I believe, by the way, that he does, because they are responsible for the tremendous immorality and hashkata of the United States. The United States
and
has
by the way,
become
Rabbi,
yes?
One of the people that Biden wants to be in his office is a man that walks around and said nobody should live past the age of 75. They should be killed. You heard this guy?
No, what's his name?
No, you ever heard of something like this? I don't know. Esther, what's that guy's name? Is Esther still there? Some guy who doesn't think people should live after 75. He wants to kill people.
Yeah, euthanasia. Yeah, he wants to save Social
Rabbi,
Security.
but time is very limited. Time is very limited. Trump doesn't have much time to come up with all this proof and, the lawsuits and the courts.
Well, somebody told me. I don't know if it's true, but somebody told me that if Trump does not concede the election, which he will not because of all the fraud, then automatically the election will go toward the states, and that each state has one vote. Now, the interesting thing about that, and that happened, by the way, I think twice in previous history, U.S. history. Now, the interesting thing about that is the one in the state, each state has one vote. But who votes? The state legislatures. And the majority of the state legislatures in the United States are Republican. Yeah. There are, I think, 37 states which are Republican, right? And 13 which are Democratic. So therefore, he would win if it ever gets thrown to the states. So we don't know exactly which way it's going to go. But there's no question that he will not concede at all because of this tremendous amount of fraud. So it should be fascinating to watch how the United States is going to handle this. You see, look,
what happens if it's civil war?
Yeah, what about all the people that still believe that Biden won and it's fine and that they're Biden people? Hashem has to prove that how does he turn them to realize that they were, blinded the whole time?
Well, I think what's going to happen is that the evidence that they have, Republicans have, is going to be so, of such strength that I think many Democrats will realize that they've been.
The problem is that they only watch CNN and they're not posting any of this information, so they're not going to even read the information.
Yeah, but what's going to happen is when Trump wins, Trump made a tremendous mistake. You know what that was? In Italy, they have a rule. When you put somebody down, you put him down permanently because he's going to come and get you. What Trump made a mistake. He should have put Hillary down. He should have taken out all of these people and, subjected them to justice and put them in prison. He didn't. There's not one guy walking around today who committed all those acts, Hillary and Comey and Brennan and Clapper, all these people, none of them have been convicted. None of them have been tried. And that was a mistake. And I think what's going to happen when Trump wins is that he's going to go after all these people. And once and for all, he's going to put them all away. Because they will never stop. And one of the things that he's going to go after is Twitter and Facebook. Because what they are doing is atrocious. And I think he's going to take away, because they have protection against being sued. He's going to take that away, and he's going to really, teach them a lesson.
Yeah, Facebook took president off of his Facebook page.
Say that again?
Facebook took the word president.
Removed president off of Trump's page. And
wow.
And called him a candidate, something like, political candidate or something. Mind you, he's still the president till January.
Of course, till January 20th. Of course.
And they removed him as president.
Yeah. Well, look. They are asking to be destroyed.
Yeah.
I mean that's incredible.
So
Look,
Rabbi,
we're yeah.
Out of the scenarios that you were saying,
how does what? Can you speak louder?
Sure. Out of the 3 scenarios that you were saying in your other shiur that you gave,
yeah.
The scenario that you said that Biden would win, could Mashiach still come even if so much evil is in reign?
The answer is yes. Because you have to remember that God gives the ability of Mashiach to overpower everybody. It's like Yosef HaTzadik. Once he was released from prison, you can't stop him. Paro had no free will. He had to make him the head. Once the Mashiach comes, we're not dealing anymore with merit. We're not dealing here with teva, which is nature. God gives him the power to succeed. And that's one of the miracles of a messianic figure, is that he never fails. He always succeeds. It looks like he fails in the beginning, just like Moshe Rabbeinu. But in the end, he must succeed. And that's exactly what happened with Moshe. That's what will happen with Mashiach ben Yosef. Everything will fail. Everything. So there's really nothing to worry about. So it doesn't make a difference how much evil. That's the whole point. If you look in the Navi, so many times in the Navi it says, that there will be evil, people will try to stop him, and it says that God will destroy them. That's exactly what he's going to do. That's the end of evil. That's the whole point of Mashiach ben Yosef, you see. So there's really nothing to worry about. It doesn't make a difference how much evil succeeds. In the end, they are destroyed. That's a nevuah. This is many nevuahs that are in the Tanakh, that God will destroy evil. So don't lose any sleep on it.
So you said that he would fail, like as if basically we're failing now as a society. Would you say that?
Well,
we're
yeah.
Failing, our whole system is failing.
Yes.
Everything that we trusted in, believed in. Our roots.
Yeah, the world is returning to a situation of Memtes Shari Tumah, just like it was in Sodom, just like it was in the time of Noach. The world is reverting to a terrible state of corruption and immorality, and that's really what's destined. And we see that all from the Navi, that God will destroy all of this. You see, and they have no chance to survive at all. You see. Look, it's very shortly. It's up and coming, and because there's a lot to do once the Mashiach comes. Remember, it's not enough just to eradicate evil. You want to take the world and make it pure and holy. And that takes a tremendous amount of time. So that obviously has to begin, in a certain amount of time, because, like I say, it takes a lot of time. And this has to happen before the Mashiach comes. Mashiach ben David, that is. Because in his time, evil will be destroyed. The Satan will be killed. So there's no more evil. You see? But the war against evil will take place by Mashiach ben Yosef. That is the time of Ben Yosef.
We're facing now.
What was that?
I feel like that's what we're facing right now, the war against evil.
You're right, exactly. The war between the Democrats and Republicans, or between Biden and Trump, is not a war between them.
No, it's good versus evil.
It's good and evil.
Exactly, which I've said many times. You're looking at really Goig and against Mashiach ben Yosef. You're looking of evil, good versus evil. That's really what you're watching. As the evil tries to destroy Trump. So it looks like it's winning, but in the end it won't. And I'm hopefully that the entire Democratic Party will be so scandalized that in many ways I don't know if they'll cease operating as a party, but they certainly will completely change themselves in terms of what they really are now. Look, we are living in historic times. We really are. This kind of time has never happened before. A guy like Trump has never happened before. He's one of the greatest presidents in U.S. history in terms of what he's done. And you're looking at an unbelievable attempt to destroy him between the Russian collusion, hoax,
impeachment,
and then you had Bob Mueller. I mean, this has been going on, and every day he's being slammed by the media. I mean, this is unheard of. The hatred against this person is really the hatred of evil against good, you see. That's what you're watching.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
Rabbi. Nachshon ben Aminadav, the one that went inside the water.
Who Nachshon ben Aminadav, yeah?
What about him?
Yeah. So I feel like that's exactly what we're waiting for. We're waiting for that one person.
I'm not hearing you. You're breaking up. What?
Hold on, Ma, wait. Say it again.
I feel like Sky is in this. I feel like we're going to have one person come out and have so much information that's going to open up the ocean. You understand what I mean? So much information that's there for the Democrats that he's going. That's the person that's going to open up the water to let the Jews go through. You know what I mean? Like
There could be. Yeah, there could be some type of information that is a bombshell, which they will come out with. You see, and they already have this whole concept. Like I said, you mentioned of Dominion being Venezuelan. It's unbelievable.
Like, what is he? Do you know anything about him?
About who?
Nachshon.
Well, Nachshon ben Aminadav, if I remember correctly.
Wasn't that Miriam's
yeah,
son?
Miriam's husband. Yeah, he was one of the descendants of Yehuda. Yeah, Nachshon ben Aminadav. His wife was Miriam, and he obviously was a tremendous person.
You know what I'm thinking, Rabbi? That whatever information will come out, if it comes out on Hanukkah, it's like as if we had no oil left, we have no hope left, and then all of a sudden we found a Pach Shemen and it lit up the whole menorah, and that's how Hanukkah could be. It's
going to have to be before, because they count. The Electoral College has to announce by then.
The Electoral College counts on the 5th day of Hanukkah, so it could happen in the beginning of it.
Yeah, listen, that's a nice thought. That would be nice if it happened, exactly. Where the whole thing unraveled on Hanukkah would be incredible. That would be truly miraculous.
Rabbi, I listened to a class, and they said the Gilgul of Biden is the Nachash, and he's the pet of the Nachash, the mouse. What do you think of that?
Well, nice speculation. Nice speculation. What can I say?
He definitely can't talk.
The Nachash has more of a brain than Biden.
Of course, yeah.
Crazy.
Wow. Look,
but it's
we like I say, we live in historical times. What's happening in the last 4 years?
Our prayers and bring.
Yeah. So look, let's hope that this month is the month of the beginning of the Geula.
Amen.
You know.
Didn't you?
Okay.
One time you gave a class and you said that Kislev is when Hashem does the execution. Like he writes it on Yom Kippur, and then he.
Yeah. Hanukkah. What they say it. Rosh Hashanah is when he writes it. Yom Kippur is when he signs it, right? And Hoshana Rabbah is when he seals it, and Hanukkah is when he delivers it.
Executes, delivers.
That's
so
the delivery.
Deliver the
Correct,
Mashiach from Rabbi Amenu.
Yes. Yeah. So let's hope he does. Sure.